Welcome to the Life Begins at Midlife podcast, where we pop the champagne to celebrate the unexplored joys and endless adventures that await us in the midlife. Flipping the script on what it means to hit those fabulous 40s, 50s and beyond. Because here, we don't believe in midlife crises, only midlife revolutions. Reminding you that the only thing we're letting go of at midlife is the notion that it's all downhill from here. Nope, we're here to climb higher, dream bigger, and laugh louder. Each week, we'll dive into the myths, share the truths, and unlock the secrets to making the midlife years your best years yet. From rediscovering lost passions to embarking on new adventures, we're covering it all. Expect candid conversations with inspiring guests who've turned their midlife years into their most dynamic chapter yet. We're talking to everyone from entrepreneurs who've launched successful startups from their kitchen tables to adventurers who decided age is just a number when it comes to climbing mountains or sailing the seas. So if you've ever found yourself pondering, is this all there is? Or you're just eager to embrace the richness of midlife with both arms wide open, then you, my friend, are in the right place. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's show the world that life doesn't just begin at 20, it begins again at midlife. And remember, in the Life Begins at Midlife podcast, the only rule is to live confidently, love unconditionally, and laugh uncontrollably. Let's get started. So hello and welcome to today's episode of Life Begins at Midlife podcast. We've got a guest in the studio today, and her name is Mahnaz, and she's going to be talking to us a bit about boundaries. But first, I'd like to welcome her in and give her the opportunity to talk a little bit about who she is and what she does in the world. So welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have a chat with you. So my name is Mahnaz and my business is Built with Boundaries. So I help empower mums who are running their business around their family to prioritise their business and work in a way that they can have more harmony in their life and being efficient in all the things in their personal life as well as their professional life, so that there isn't that inner conflict between doing one thing or the other. And I believe it's absolutely possible that we can be successful business owners as well as amazing mums. And, all the mums have so much experience to share and impact others. So, I love helping them to stand in their power and really be more confident and do all the things that they really desire.
That sounds great. Yeah, and it is so important, as a mum to have those boundaries in place, for yourself with your business, and then, with family members as well. Because when I remember back to when my children were younger, and I had a lot more family living close by, they always seemed to think that because I worked for myself and I worked from home, that I was available to just run this
Yeah.
quick errand or, take in this parcel or something like that. So, it is important to be mindful of one's boundaries.
Yeah, it's very tricky. I think it is hard. And when you don't have those boundaries or people just do not have that understanding, and often it is our nearest and dearest who don't understand, then it makes things really difficult because we feel like we're just playing this tug of war with all the things that we want to do and catching up rather than, actually moving in a proactive way and feeling like we're accomplishing, because the mum guilt again is also unreal. And then, whether you do things and you don't, and where do you say no, where do you say yes, there's just so many things that come up for us. And then all the things that happen in our personal life feed into our business too. So I think that's also always interesting to take note of, and see where it is that things are bleeding into our business, because they genuinely will be.
Absolutely. And then in reverse as well, we might find ourselves sneaking in that extra little bit of business time because we enjoy what we do. And we think, oh, everybody else is doing what they're doing. They won't notice if I just quickly sneak off and go and do half an hour. And that half an hour doesn't always end up being half an hour. It ends up being, sometimes much longer than that. And we don't, if we don't have those boundaries in place, it can become very blurred and very messy sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And that's a boundary that can be really difficult for us to maintain, especially as your children get a bit older, like for example, my two children are both teenagers now. My eldest is nearly 19. And, you have different challenges and different things. So yeah, there's more of an opportunity to sneak away and do that extra work. Oh, well, they don't really need me yet. I could just carry on. And I think, especially when you get to that age, like you want to be investing time and using your time in a really efficient manner so that you can spend time on your self-care, you can look after your family, you can do all the things that are important to you because each of them have a place in your life. But when you love what you do, and this is what's always so interesting, and you just touched on it, Jackie, when you love what you do, it never feels like work. So when it doesn't feel like work, you just want to be doing more of it, and you're so passionate and driven. You want to help more people. You want to I'll just do this thing, and as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, the work never ends. So we can always find something to do. So it's much harder to close that laptop and just say, right, I'm finished for the night. And so I guess that's an interesting place to start. Do you find that as well? And sometimes it changes through our life as well, doesn't it? Sometimes we find it easier. I'm just thinking back to when my kids were at primary school. I had to go and pick them up. You're forced to stop then in a way, even though at the time it feels very restrictive. There's a clear boundary that you just cannot not be there to pick up your child at the school gate. So those things can change over time, and I think that's really interesting for us to stay on top of, because our boundaries have to keep on moving and changing, just like we do, and our lifestyle and everything.
Absolutely. And I find, if I am having some time out and I have closed the laptop, that's often when those great ideas pop into my head and I think, oh, I could do that. Or oh, what if I did it like that? But then it's having a system in place where you can capture those thoughts either in a notebook or on your phone or voice note or whatever works for you, so that you can pick it up at some point when you're back at your desk. So you haven't forgotten that idea, but you're
Yeah,
not actioning it straight there and then. Because again, sometimes it's not a good idea just to drop everything. Sorry, guys, no dinner tonight. We're gonna go. I've got this great idea.
yeah,
Even if you're not a mum who've got, you haven't got any responsibilities, still for yourself, it's good to have those pockets of time where you're doing different things to allow yourself that downtime to have those moments of inspiration, I think.
absolutely. Because those are the moments that really help us to see things that we could never see in the first place. And we all know that having a rest and taking a break is sometimes the best and the most productive thing that we can do. It's just we find it difficult to give ourselves permission to do it. So you've just shared a great example that we can be doing our any other tasks that are non-business related, and when those ideas pop in, like that is golden. And yeah, just having a notepad, writing them down, whatever works for you, capturing those things so that all you're doing is pausing. And I guess, if anything else, you maybe just sitting with the idea, because it might actually change. Like if we just rush in and do the things, it doesn't get a chance to evolve in our mind and really for us to figure out, is it something that I want to do, or is it just one of these thousands of ideas? It doesn't necessarily mean that just because we have an idea that we should go ahead with it, because it could be inspired by somebody else doing something, or us hearing something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right for us, and that's definitely a trap that we can fall into. Having been there myself in that overworking situation, I went from one end of the scale, not prioritizing my business and not really knowing what I wanted to do and how I wanted to help others, to then finding the time to do it and overworking and falling into that trap. So I had to retrain myself that working longer does not mean that's more success, and we can build a business on our terms, and it just feels so much more and flow and enjoyable when we're enjoying that journey and we're creating it the way that we want to sustain it in the future. But that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and you can fall into these moments of overworking, but they really don't serve us. And, it's all very well for someone to say, oh, well, I've been there and don't do that. But it's very difficult when you have so much pressure around, what it is that you want to do, and getting your own voice heard and being able to showcase what you do in a really natural way. So I think the more work we do with ourselves, I think everything always starts from within, and knowing ourselves and understanding. And that's why what I've been experimenting with recently is bringing in like values work and human design into my clients' work. And I think this whole like learning to know who we truly are is something that we need to um, not only become aware of, but learn how to accept that, because we don't see ourselves as we see others. And we never really get introduced to ourselves. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with human design, but it gives us so much information that can feel so personalized, and helps us to see where we might be falling into some of the traps that would be quite common for us. So it's an individual, if people, your listeners aren't aware of it, it's a bit like a profiling system. And it's the way I like to explain it is like science meets spirituality. It's a whole combination of astrology, the chakras, and all this. So based on your time and date of birth and exact location, it determines, what your gifts are in terms of the energy that you bring into this world. And it's just been absolutely fascinating. But us learning to see ourselves is so valuable. Like, we even, especially at midlife, right? I think it's a time for discovery. And then when you realize that you actually didn't understand a lot of things that are coming through, that is where the power lies. And it's just been absolutely fascinating seeing clients have those moments of realization, and you can literally see that this is the person on their chart. You can see that, because once you start, when I'm working with clients and I start getting to know them, I can see that that is actually them. And then obviously they're going to see it in a different perspective. But yeah, I think we never really get that chance to figure out who we truly are. We're always on this never-ending journey.
Absolutely, because even as a child, when you come, you start walking, you start talking, you're doing all those things, and in each milestone, your parents is almost like looking forward to and ushering you through to the next thing. Like when you start school and say, no, no sooner into school, it's like, what do you want to be when you're big? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's like, oh, I want to be a fireman or a doctor or whatever, and you keep getting asked that question, and it's almost like you're being channeled into that do be. And then when you finish school, it's like, okay, what you going to study, what you going to go and, become, what job are you going to do? Okay, well, you've got a job now. When you're going to get married, when you're going to have children, when you're going to have the house. We never really get a chance to think, what does Jackie want? Or whoever the person is, oh, because we're so busy treading that treadmill and trying to, keep up with the societal expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you explain that so well. We are, and we're getting constantly affected by our family around us, the people who are around the most, which is obviously why it's so important. Things like, your podcast, you are putting your perspectives to somebody who isn't in the family, but you have a chance to be influenced and motivated and inspired by other people. And the people that we listen to the most are going to have an effect on us. So if we constantly have, toxic people around us, negative thinking, whatever, no wonder, it's obviously going to have an impact on us. And as we're growing up, there's all these outside external things that we have to worry about. We never really spend much time doing that inner work because it's not really the norm. There's nothing really apart from, like, obviously, I think when you start work in different corporates, I was in the corporate world for 20 years, and you do these like personality tests, Myers-Briggs and this, that, and the other. It's only so far it goes. But what I've found with human design is it is so much deeper. Like, you can see the person and you can see their true gifts. And what often happens is we don't see our strengths because we can see certain aspects of us that we think are our strengths, other people can sometimes see them better. And then human design gives you another perspective on it. And it's up to us then to really embody that and, like, not feeling like we are thinking of those things as weaknesses. That's another common thing. Like, we can be thinking, well, this is how I am. And sometimes that's actually our strength. And, that can create such insights for us because we have all this evidence with our story, our life so far, and how we've maybe reacted to things that have happened, what's been said, what's happened. And it's like putting all these pieces together and understanding it is so beautiful. And I think that's really important, and especially at this stage of life where you're already feeling like you're not quite sure what you want to do next. And, understanding ourselves more. I think there is never a better time to learn about yourself. And when you come to midlife, perimenopause, menopause, it's such a fantastic, there's a reason there's a transition, isn't there? And I think that is so nature's way of telling us that we want to readdress our direction. We want to relook at our life and maybe our purpose, or, what do we want? And get to ask ourselves that question.
Absolutely. It's almost like, we've done our bit for humanity, say, for example, because we've had the children and we've nurtured them to a point, so we can carry on with the species, so to speak, so we can enjoy the children as they're growing up. But we've also got that, like, clean canvas where we can now, come into our own of who we are to be able to add value into, society in a different way, apart from providing, the next generation that's coming through.
Absolutely. And until we don't do that work, then we have to always first understand who we are and what we are needing, and what is it that fills us up, what's right for us, what's wrong for us, what's our decision making process, how do we want our life to look. And only after that point can we really, we're talking about boundaries here, so bringing it back to boundaries, we can only really look at what boundaries are helpful for us once we know that, because, knowing ourselves means we know how we can work with our strengths. Because chances are all of us especially at this point, want to have more flow, and we want to have more joy, we want to have more ease. And that's only going to be natural if we tap into our strengths rather than constantly resisting and having this conflict with our weaknesses. So if we do more of the work that helps us to use our strengths, that's what things like boundaries can be helpful, because, we can be protecting our values that are important to us. There's a boundary for that. And, just generally being able to build that life that we want and get to actually design it our way, knowing all that we know about ourselves.
Absolutely, and not feeling obligated to do all the doings just because that's what we think, has been expected of us all this time. We
Yeah.
can have that confidence in ourselves to say, right, this is not how I want to do it, and this does not make me happy, and I choose to do it this way. And it's about gently setting boundaries as well. It doesn't have to be, very forceful. It all depends on. Sometimes it does need to be a bit more forceful, depending on the situation. But often it can just be this gentle, integration of new ways of doing things.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it is very important to do that with boundaries, because the word boundaries, we all may even think they are valuable, may think they are essential. And we look at, successful people, anybody who is successful will generally always mention that their boundaries have helped them. It's never talked about in a negative way. But us understanding what that actually means is very difficult, and boundaries can conjure up this image of, either putting ourselves in a cage or putting somebody else in a cage, and this kind of distancing ourselves. And I think what's really important here is to change the way that we look at boundaries, because until we do that, we never ever wanting them. There's no desire. They don't look attractive. They just feel like you're saying no to everybody. So I'd love to share with you 4 incredible ways that boundaries can be viewed in a different way. And I think this explanation, whenever I share it, I feel like it really resonates, especially with mums who just feel like this resistance to boundaries. So boundaries can be your shield. They can be this protection and helping you to protect your energy and the dreams that you have. And we talked about that. Boundaries can also be your clock because, if you want to help manage your time efficiently, then that's going to be important. Boundaries can also be your voice. And this is the way we communicate what we need and what our desires are. And boundaries can also be like a guiding pathway. It's giving us direction and helping us to create space for our business dreams and not sacrificing anything or anyone in the process. So those are kind of 4 very quick ways that I wanted to share, because I think it's always nice to be able to have a different view of what boundaries are. So I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. Because, like you said, you always think that boundaries are this hard, harsh thing to be, implemented, but it doesn't have to be that at all. And yeah, so it's been so lovely speaking to you, and thank you for sharing those 4 ways that we can, have boundaries in our lives. And yeah, I know you have got a free handout, freebie, a downloadable freebie thing that I can't think of the word right now, but that's just midlife. There we go. Um, but yeah, I'll be adding that into the show notes as well, so that any of the listeners can download it and have a look and get in touch with you as well.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Yes, what I've got is a free boundary clock, and it's a worksheet so listeners can go away from their desk and go away from the tech, just print this worksheet off and have a look to see where their boundaries lie just now. What's the current status quo of where they are and how they sit, and like really assess it in a visual way, because I think it's very difficult to work on something like your boundaries, and having this visual representation can be really insightful. So I hope that your listeners enjoy that. And thank you so much, Jackie.
Perfect, and lovely having you. And so yeah, thank you very much for your time today. As we wrap up another episode here at Life Begins at Midlife, we want to take a moment to extend a heartfelt thank you to our sponsor, Jackie Bourne, for Purpose Unleashed. Jackie's commitment to empowering individuals on their journey of self-discovery and transformation truly aligns with the spirit of our show. Whether you're navigating the challenges of midlife, seeking clarity on your next steps, or simply looking to live a more fulfilled life, Purpose Unleashed offers the guidance, tools, and support you need to turn your aspirations into reality. For those of you feeling stuck or at a crossroads, remember, it's never too late to redefine your path and embrace the life you've always dreamed of. Visit Purpose Unleashed website to discover how you can start your transformative journey today. Let Jackie be your guide to a more vibrant, purpose-driven life. You can find this link to the website in the show notes below. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in and sharing your time with us. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to grow, to love, and to make a difference. Until next time, keep striving, keep dreaming, and keep listening.